We're at Black Hat USA 2014, and I'm here with Ryan Olson, Director of Intelligence for Unit 42 at Palo Alto Networks.
Great to be here, Chad. Thanks.
So Ryan, here at Black Hat is kind of our first big unveiling of Unit 42. Tell us a little bit about what Unit 42 is and our research methodology.
Absolutely. So Unit 42 is Palo Alto's threat intelligence team. We just founded about 3 months ago, and we released our first paper about 2 weeks ago. And the goal of Unit 42 is really to take all the data that Palo Alto is collecting and to put that in context for our customers and for the community. So we collect the data and we try to understand not just how do we block it and how do we prevent it, but who's really launching these attacks against our customers? What are their motivations and what kind of resources do they have?
So talk a little bit more about context, because there are a lot of great research organizations out there, many of them represented here at Black Hat, but we want to do something different.
Yep. I think context is really, really important for incident responders who are trying to determine what is important to them to put their resources into, and what can they just sort of wipe and move on from. Because you have a real range of attackers who organizations have to defend against today, down from sort of the low-level people who are just a nuisance, who are annoying them and maybe just sort of distracting their users from getting things done, up to the people at the top who are specifically targeting your organization, trying to steal your data. And part of the goal of my team, Unit 42, is to really help people identify what the difference between those two is. And we do that using the data we have at Palo Alto that we're collecting through Wildfire, as well as all the data that's available in the open source, everything that we can pull from the web and from all of our partnerships that we're building around the world as well.
So Ryan, earlier this summer we saw the release of 419 Evolution, first major research paper from Unit 42, talking about the evolution of the so-called 419 scammers from Nigeria. Take us through it.
So basically in May, we picked up this original sample that we thought was interesting for one reason or another, and it sort of snowballed into this much bigger story. The original file itself, we realized, was being launched by a group of Nigerian scammers who in the past had been launching 419 scams. Those are the scams that a lot of people are aware of. I'm a Nigerian prince, I have $10 million, I'll give you part of it if you help me get out of the country. The malware that we were looking at was something that's being sold on lots of underground forums, but the actual infrastructure involved in this attack, it became clear that it was being used in Nigeria itself. And we were able to sort of track that down to some actual actors and sort of investigate their evolution over time, from launching these 419 scams, discovering these tools that they can use, which are being built by people in other countries, a lot of times Eastern Europe, and then being sold on these underground markets. And as they discovered this, they were able to deploy new attacks now against businesses, against our customers, rather than just against sort of gullible individuals who were really the primary target of 419 scammers in the past.
And because of that reputation as kind of low-level, not a lot of technical acumen, the whole Nigerian prince type of attack that preys on gullible individuals, businesses have not spent a lot of time preparing or really even investigating what these actors do.
Yeah, and really they haven't needed to in the past. And even still, the data that we showed in the report shows that these are not the most sophisticated actors out there. They don't have great operational security. It was not incredibly difficult for us to identify quite a few of them using social media to talk about what they're doing. So they're still not a major threat to the industry, but they're a rising threat. And this is a group of people who have a really strong sort of background in social engineering, and now they're starting to bring in new tools. And we think that's going to present a larger threat in the future. But for now, it's much more around making sure that you can identify the context around that attack. If you looked at this tool and just sort of Googled for NetWire, that was the tool that was being used in the attack, you might have thought that this was Chinese cyber espionage and this was a major attack on your organization. But we showed that this was clearly a Nigerian 419 scammer who didn't have nearly the same sort of resources as a group like that had.
So Ryan, one of the things we've heard quite a bit at conferences like Black Hat lately is, well, we're all used to hearing about threats and a lot of the actors coming from China, Eastern Europe, all the usual touch points. Increasingly, thanks to the access to the tools, as much like what was described in the 419 Evolution, we're going to see more threats and actors originating from places like South America and Africa that we really haven't paid much heed to before. True?
Yeah, I absolutely think that's true, and it really comes down to just access to the internet leads to access to all sorts of things. In the past, if you only had limited access, maybe through a dial-up modem or maybe only in an internet cafe, you might not be able to learn enough or be able to launch a real kind of attack from your system. But once you have access at home and you have sort of steady access and you have the time to learn about everything that's been available to all these other attackers in the past, the same sort of tools can be used by anybody. And in this case, we saw people who because they have a background in social engineering, it's very easy for them to make that transition into using other attacks, because the hard part is convincing someone to open that file. They've got that already. They know how to trick people. From there, it's really just how do they use the tools, and that's what they've been learning in the last couple years.
The Unit 42 team has lots cooking. How do people follow along with what you guys are putting out?
So we put out our first report 2 weeks ago, and that's a great starting place for anyone who's interested in finding out more about the team. But also we've got a blog, and we'll be putting out more information there every week. You'll be learning about the research that we're doing and how Palo Alto Networks is defending our customers.
Be watching. Thank you, Ryan.